Friends of heavy metal, welcome back to another edition of the Nuclear Podblast, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records. My name's Drucifer, former employee for Nuclear Blast America, but you know what? I enjoy doing this now. This is so much more fun. 3 interviews on this episode, plus lots of new music. We'll hear from the one and only Jeff Becerra of Possessed fame, Revelations of Oblivion, the brand new Possessed album, first album in more than 3 decades. Talk about a true return to form. So we'll be talking to Jeff later on in the Podblast. Also, recently I got a chance to speak with Jonathan from Graveyard while they were in the States here touring with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, so you'll get to hear that interview later on as well. The first interview on this episode, however, is with Ted Aguiar from Death Angel. And I sat down with Ted here in Colorado Springs while the band were on their headlining run out to the East Coast to meet up with Overkill, so it was great to talk to Ted and get his insight on the new record and what's happening in the world of Death Angel. Did you see the latest Slayer tour? I didn't, but I did see last year's tour, and I'm a little jealous of the set list this year versus last year, but that's okay. I'm all right. I'll be heading to Albuquerque in September to see the Iron Maiden tour. Can't wait for that. Also, I was in Chicago recently for a long weekend, and not only did I catch a Cubs game at Wrigley Field, but my wife and I saw the Overkill Death Angel Mothership tour at the House of Blues, and also caught the Metal Church and Doro Pesch show later the same night at Reggie's. Now, we couldn't stay for all of Doro's set, so I didn't get a chance to say hello to her, but the set was jam-packed with older hits and cuts from the new albums as well, and the Overkill show was just dynamite. Not sure I've ever seen such a huge circle pit between bands. So again, our interview with Ted from Death Angel coming up real soon, but first up, some new music from the Italian orchestral death metal gods, Fleshgod Apocalypse. The band just released their 5th studio album, Veleno, on May 24th. Multi-instrumentalist Francesco Paoli says, Veleno is the most spontaneous album we've ever done. We've always been super honest with our music, but being honest doesn't mean you are completely spontaneous. Makes a lot of sense. Now, the video for this track, Sugar, already has more than 500,000 views at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel. Check it out when you can, and welcome back to the Nuclear Podblast. With over 1 million YouTube hits so far, that's the video track Sugar from Fleshgod Apocalypse and their 5th studio record, Valeno, just released last week on Nuclear Blast Records. Hey, it's Drucifer and the Nuclear Podblast. Thanks for checking in. Let's run down all of the May releases for Nuclear Blast America. You may have missed a few of these. The Jack Slamer record, self-titled record, came out on May 3rd, as well as the Battle Beast Steel reissue. Also, we put out some Halloween reissues, Keeper of the Seven Keys, The Legacy, as well as Gambling with the Devil. The new Possessed album, Revelations of Oblivion, came out on May 10th, and you'll be hearing our interview with Jeff Becerra soon. As just discussed, the Fleshgod Apocalypse new album, Valeno, just came out last week. And of course, Death Angel's Humanicide, out now as we speak. And also Royal Republic released the Club Majesty release on the 31st. And the new Vader EP, Thy Messenger, also out now. And you'll hear a cut from that EP coming up real soon. Again, the Death Angel album, Humanicide. Just a killer record, another in a long line of releases for Death Angel. Will likely be out when you hear this, and I got a chance to catch up with guitarist Ted Aguiar here in Colorado Springs at the Black Sheep a few weeks back when the band were doing a headlining run on their way out east to meet up with Overkill and Mothership. Now, I've known Ted for 19 years now, since meeting him at his second Death Angel show ever. It was great to get his perspective on the new record, as you tend to always hear from Mark and Rob, the two mainstay guys. But again, Ted's been in the band for 19 years now, so by far the third longest member of the current lineup. So get set to hear from Ted Aguiar right after we hear the title track of the new album here on the Nuclear Podblast. This is Humanicide. Hey, this is Drucifer downstairs at the Black Sheep in Colorado Springs. I've got Ted Aguiar from Death Angel here with me. The second show of your headlining run, heading east to join up with Overkill for your North American tour with those guys. Ted, welcome to Colorado Springs. You've never played here, correct?
I never played here. The band's never played here, so it's our very first. And to correct you, it's our third show.
Third show. Okay, Reno and then...
Salt Lake. And tonight in Colorado Springs.
So Humanicide is out worldwide on May 31st, the band's 9th studio album, your 6th album with the band. So before we talk about the new album, let's jump back to August 11th, 2001, to the Thrash of the Titans benefit show in San Francisco. Personally, I had just gotten back from the Wacken Festival in Germany the weekend before. I'd just gotten back days before that. It's Death Angel's first show as a reunited band, the first performance in, I think, over 10 years at that point. It's also your first show with the band. So take us backstage a few minutes before you guys are going on.
You want me to take you backstage, or you want me to take you a few months back?
Go for it. Go for it, man.
Well, actually, it was funny because I heard about Thrash of the Titans. A friend of mine emailed the flyer, and it was like Thrash of the Titans, a benefit for Chuck Billy. And I just found out, just like everyone else said, he was diagnosed with some cancer, and they were throwing this big benefit for him. Walter Morgan put it on. A friend of ours, a friend of Chuck's.
Friend of the Bay Area.
Friend of the Bay Area. And his whole idea was trying to get all the Bay Area thrash bands to reunite for this festival. A friend of mine sent me the flyer, and I saw Death Angel on it. I was like, holy shit. I didn't know. I was like, the band with the longest hiatus. Mm-hmm. I was like, what the fuck? And at the time, I was in a band called Sift, and Rob and Mark and Andy were doing a band called Swarm. And
Swarm still.
Yeah.
I've seen Swarm once, yeah.
And we played a lot of local shows together, so I've known those guys from the day, but, I've got to know them really well as, our local bands were doing shows together. And I remember I saw the flyer, and I said, oh, man, I can't wait till tickets go on sale. I gotta see Death Angel. Death Angel was my Bay Area band, right under Metallica. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from Rob, and, he goes, hey, what's going on? And I told him, dude, I just saw, what the fuck? You guys, Death Angel confirmed for this? He goes, yeah. I was so excited. I go, dude, if you need any help, like with your gear and stuff, I'll help you out. I want to see the show. I just want to be a part of it. He goes, the reason why I'm calling you is I got a hold of Gus, and he's in the Philippines, and he doesn't want to do it. Do you want to do it? And I said, yes, I'll do it. I hung up the phone, called my wife. Told her the story. She was stoked. And I told Rob, could we sit down and learn the songs? So I think it was that night or like that week, I went over to Swarm's rehearsal place. It was 2 days before the actual show. That's when we started rehearsing.
Wow.
2 days. Idea. We all came together. It was like first time jamming. I mean, this is my first time jamming with these guys. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Mm-hmm. We rehearsed 2 days, and we did Thrash of the Titans, and it was amazing. And the whole...
Great show. Yeah.
And the whole thing was, Rob, the story is like, Rob didn't want to do it. Those guys didn't want to do it. They laid Death Angel to rest. They said, it's done. They gotten a lot of offers from back, during the years. Hey, why don't you reunite for the festival? And they kept saying no. And Chuck Billy called Rob and asked him personally. And Rob was like, what do you say to a guy who...
that helped form the scene?
Yeah, helped form the scene. It's, it's like brothers, metal scene. And they got together and goes, if we're going to reform, it's just going to be for this one thing, no money, no nothing. Let's just do it for Chuck.
I remember that's what the band statement was at the time.
Yeah, it was.
One and done.
Done. Then after that show, everyone was so excited. The crowd reaction was amazing. I was nervous as shit because 2 rehearsals, you go up there and I'm like, I got to play these Death Angel songs and all the, like, for them it came second nature.
Sure,
After a while they're like, oh yeah, I'm like trying to learn all these parts. But we went up there, we crushed it, and that was it. Then I guess that's when, like with all the other bands that reform, promoters and labels started calling. So it was a fun show. Just boom, then was it 19 years later? Here I am. And
well, let's jump forward again.
Yes.
19 years to Humanicide. Almost 20 years later, here we are. Some great diversity in these 10 songs, and even some new nuances melodically with songs like Aggressor, and including some piano on Immortal Behated.
Yes.
how do you view this album in terms of overall style and mood in comparison to the last few albums the band's released?
Well, this is the longest, 4 albums with the same producer.
Yep.
The same lineup. And we're gelling really well. I mean, when you've been together 10 years with this lineup, going through the rigorous of touring, the mood swings of each other, everything a band goes. And when it came down to this record, I think the way I could sum it up with this record is I think you could hear everyone's personalities on this record more. You know what I mean? People, of course it's going to be heavy. With Death Angel, it's going to be heavy. But with this one, with Relentless, The Dream, and The Evil, it's just, a lot of fast and stuff, thrash. There's stuff in there. But we wanted to break it up a bit. You know what I mean? We have enough fast songs, we have enough thrash songs, and we just felt like we wanted to add some variety and some moods and, just revisit some territories we haven't been to in a while and, dip into new territories we never checked out. So that's how I describe this record. You could hear everyone's personalities and how they gel and everyone's musicianship.
Very cool. The band seems to have hit a stride, in terms of writing and putting an album together, with Rob and Mark trading ideas initially and forming the demo versions of songs before the rhythm section, and you guys get a hold of it. How has your input changed and perhaps increased over the course of 4 albums with the band? Do you have any lead work on the new record?
I do. Me and Rob trade off on a couple of songs.
Very cool.
Which is really cool. And when it comes to that, Rob's like the mad scientist when it comes to the songs. He's fucking so good at it. Look at the discography, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Rob kind of feels out the song and goes, hey, I kind of feel like we should trade leads off here. I'm like, let's do it. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those, like, I want to do this and that. Like, Rob feels it. Like, let's do something together here. I'm in. You know what I mean? It's more of a teamwork. Mm-hmm. And another factoid on this record, having been in this band like almost 19 years, close to 20, finally got a song on the record. I wrote a tune, sent it over to Rob. Rob goes, dude, this is sick. Let's put it on.
Which one is it?
Alive and Screaming.
Very cool. Great song, man.
Thank you.
And tucked right in the middle of the record.
Right in the middle of the record. Yeah. That's it. It's cool. It's a pretty thrashy song.
Right, but still has some pretty. It's got a good hook to it. Great hook to it.
Thanks. Yeah. So Rob heard it and goes, yeah, let's throw this on there, and it's on there.
Humanicide has some super intricate playing, as to be expected with you guys, on the title track, and also Divine Defector, I've noticed. But then again, some very straightforward rock and roll influenced energy with I Came for Blood. Do you feel that the band has taken on a style that has maybe transcended from album to album, or do you see the band's music as more of a free-form approach with each album, like going in with a blank sheet?
We actually go in with a blank sheet, really. You know what I mean? I mean, the way songs are written, we don't sit there and think like we gotta, we
satisfy the old school thrashers. And yeah.
In a sense we do, but we don't. You get what I mean? Like, there's songs on this record where the old school thrashers will like, and there's songs where they won't like, but other people will. We always go into it with a blank state. But it's funny you ask that, because sometimes when the song's written and when it's done, you don't think about it, and when you hear it, you always say, I can picture fucking the festivals doing this.
Yep.
But we don't sit there and go, I'm going to write a song for the festival.
Let's write that song for that effect.
You're just writing, and it's coming together, and when it comes together, you go, man, I could kind of hear that at this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's basically what we write. It's a freeform thing, pretty much.
Well, I dig the overall lyrical vibe on the album, where Mankind has pretty much finally done itself in. The final 2 songs, Revelation Song, which might be my favorite song right now, and Of Rats and Men, have some great words from what I think about the final existence of mankind, it seems. Now, although you're not involved directly with writing of the lyrical content, did you know the direction of the album while it was being put together musically?
Lyrically, no. Because the way it comes with the last 3 records, including this, Mark gets the music, and he ventures off into the deep corners of the earth with his headphones, and he's by himself. He likes to write by himself. It's focused. I don't really hear what's laid down until I go into the studio to do my stuff. And the funny thing, not the funny thing, the good thing is when Mark does his vocals, he'll give me the lyric sheet, goes, check this out. He'll go do his vocals, I'll read it. Then when I listen back, I never ask Mark what the song is about. I never do that. I kind of like, because whatever Mark's letting out, that's his thing.
Sure.
And whatever I read it, I look at Mark, goes, I can totally relate to what you're saying, bro. And that's all. And stuff that Mark came up with is amazing. It's probably the best he's ever done, I think.
Wow.
Especially Revelation song.
Yeah, great. That's just great lyrically. The song The Pack is a great metal anthem, and just so happens to be the name of your fan club, of course. You've got some pretty amazing diehard fans around the world. Are there any new places in the world that Death Angel plans to visit anytime soon?
We would love to hit Dubai, India, South Africa, Russia. Yeah. I'm trying to get to Russia. For me, I'm really, really curious. I want to go to the Middle East, man. Because, there's some oppressed, there's a lot of metalheads out there for a read. And, music's a good thing to let it all out. You know what I mean? Let's go out there and try to make the place a better place.
Ted Aguiar from Death Angel, man, congratulations on another fantastic record. First of all, best of luck on this headlining run, and I'll see you actually in Chicago with Overkill here in just a couple of weeks. That's going to be a great North American run as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Never toured with Overkill. We played maybe a couple of festivals, but I think it's a good pairing. East Coast, West Coast.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's going to be fun.
New records out for each band, a Nuclear Blast tour, basically. So awesome. And thanks again for taking time off for the Nuclear Podblast and talking to everybody, man.
No problem, man.
This is the Nuclear Podblast. Get more info at nuclearblast.com.
You play
That's the track Aggressor from the latest Death Angel record Humanicide, out now. And when Death Angel were here in Colorado Springs a few weeks ago when we spoke with Ted during soundcheck that day, they did 3 or 4 songs off of Humanicide that they have yet to ever play live, and that was one of them. So I got to see the band play that song for soundcheck a few weeks ago. Awesome. And congratulations to the band for delivering another killer and intricate record, honestly. The latter half of the album has some super interesting details. Best to check it out on vinyl with headphones, perhaps. My interview with Jeff Becerra from Possessed is coming up very soon. Now, I've been buying a lot of new music recently, and hopefully you have too, outside of Nuclear Blast releases. Recently, I picked up the new Amon Amarth record, Berserker, the new Haunt album, If Icarus Could Fly. Also, I picked up the new ones from Steel Prophet and Icarus Witch, both top shelf releases. And the new Backyard Babies album, Silver and Gold. It's killer, one of the best rock and roll bands on this planet for the last 20 years. But head over to nuclearblastusa.com for everything Nuclear Blast related. You can put in pre-orders for these upcoming releases in June. You've got the Majestic record, Above the Sky, as well as the new single from Nails, I Don't Want to Know You. Israel's Walkways have their second album being released on June 14th called Bleed Out, Heal Out, and you'll hear a track from that coming up real soon. The Underworld EP from Soilwork launches on June 14th. We've got 3 Primal Fear vinyl reissues coming out on the 14th of June as well. The debut record, Jaws of Death and Nuclear Fire. 2 of those 3 are my favorite Primal Fear albums. Requiem for Mankind, the new Memoriam record, out June 21st. And the picture disc Blind Guardian reissues are available June 28th. Now, the Damned Things. Yeah, the Damned Things, that band with Scott Ian, right? They're currently on a headlining run that stopped here in Colorado Springs last week, and the band played the Black Sheep with Crowbot and He Is Legend, and unfortunately, there was no Scott Ian at that show. And apparently at the shows before and after as well. However, I did see where he played with the band in Phoenix the other night, so he is doing some of the dates before Anthrax heads overseas for festival and headlining shows. So I didn't get a chance to interview Scott Ian or Keith or anyone in the band for that matter, but the show was energetic and the bands all brought a great show, and we're going to play that first single off of the new and second album from the Damned Things called High Crimes. Came out last month. This is called Cells, and you're with Drucifer on the Nuclear Podblast.
Don't come in now and all I want is a reason to stay awake.
This is the Nuclear Podblast.
I felt operations pulse. Your words are wrapped in silk. A thread that slowly suffocates and leads to great delusions. I know you're fake. I know you're snake. I know you're a meth. I know it's all this great delusion. You speak in light. You dwell in dark. How dare you complain with Satan and morality? You will disguise your treason, your fall and death. You burn with devil's soul, straight into oblivion. Abominations of the race of human variants. Nothing but lie. Oh, you betray the race through these centuries. Their false mentality breaks them, and walls they feel so deep. I know you're fake. I know you're snake. I know you're a map. I know it's all just fantasy and lies.
Releasing quality death metal from Poland for more than 25 years. That's brand new stuff from Vader, the title track Thy Messenger, from the new EP that comes out. Well, it's out now. Came out May 31st, same day as The Death Angel. Before that, from the latest album High Crimes, The Damned Things with Cells. Here on the Nuclear Podblast, Drucifer, your host, and we've got a great episode happening here. I discovered the band Possessed in 1985, if I haven't dated myself already. The song Burning in Hell from the Wild Bunch cassette compilation that was released by Hit Parader magazine. Now, there are 3 bands in the history of heavy metal whose music truly scared me the first time I ever heard it. First was Slayer and Show No Mercy, then Merciful Fate's Don't Break the Oath, and the third band was Possessed. Never had I heard vocals like that at all. And Possessed were truly the first band that I remember that were labeled death metal. To be honest, I was a little nervous and anxious to speak with Jeff Becerra, only because his music and vocals are such a huge presence for me and have been for more than 30 years. Since he was only available through Skype, Jeff's voice drops out a little bit here and there up front, but please sit back and enjoy the interview. Hey, it's Drucifer and the Nuclear Podblast. We are live with Jeff Becerra of Possessed fame. Jeff, once again, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm honored to be speaking with you as a fan of the band for almost 35 years. So thanks for taking the time out to speak with everybody at the Nuclear Podblast.
Well, Drucifer, it's Lucifer's cousin.
That's
Drucifer.
right.
I love that. Yeah, the honor and pleasure is all mine. Sir Drucifer, and it's great to be here with the family podcast.
Well, Jeff, you're on the verge of one of the greatest comebacks in heavy metal history, not only with forming an intense new version of a band that is so worshipped, but also by delivering an album that couldn't be more true and in line with what the band delivered to audiences, some 3 decades ago. With March 10th right around the corner, how are you feeling at this point of your career?
Well, I feel good. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily call it a new version. I would call it like what we've grown into version,
Okay.
Yeah, and, it's still me. It's still going to sound like me. And not to sound big-headed, but fuck, it's Possessed is something, it's a part of the fabric of our souls at this point,
Mm-hmm.
So it feels really, really good. We put a lot of work into it. I got
Possessed back together in late 2006, early 2007. So not only are these guys like almost, they're toured far more than twice as long as the original version. So we have the old stuff down, like wearing it like a piece of our skin. And then the new stuff came in, and it just feels really good to have something more to offer to our fans and supporters out there. We made this one for all the people that asked and for the people that stood by us for so long.
Well, Revelations of Oblivion is a pretty apt title for the new Possessed album, as the power of the songs and Peter Tägtgren's production combine for a massively heavy record. And I think this album rivals so many other extreme releases in terms of delivery and sound. How long have you known the production work that he's put out, and what was the final nail that solidified the union of you guys and him working together?
It was kind of random how I hooked up with Peter. Originally, we had Danielle's old college teacher, because Danielle went to college to take engineering and producing music. And so he had this like genius guitar teacher, and Dan was really keen on getting him because the price was right, and then but when all was said and done, this guy was like more expensive than like Bob Rock, and I was like, wait a minute, like this guy is just seeing money signs, and we didn't get along at all. So essentially had to let him go because he like ego tripped out, and we didn't get along, needless to say.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I Googled who are the top 10 best metal producers in the world, right? And Peter's name kept coming up along with some other people, people that you would know.
Yeah.
And so I sent a list of 10 that kept repeating to Gerardo Martinez, the head of Nuclear Blast USA.
Yeah.
He said, well, we actually work with 8 of these producers.
Yeah.
So I took that back and talked to the guys, and everybody, within a few seconds, really, or less, everybody said, let's go with Peter T, because he's the more organic. He grew up with Possessed. He doesn't try to mold you to what he is. He's able to, connect. He knows what's up. And so Gerardo contacted Peter, and I guess, Peter was really keen on it because he actually came out of retirement to do this album, which is fucking awesome, So it meant, you could tell in the studio, it meant just as much to him as it did to us. So.
Right. Well, the production is so spot on. I mean, there's so much familiarity in the mix. The roto-toms, the guitar crunch, your vocal style, of course. This album is seriously a legitimate follow-up to the band's older catalog. How much pre-recording time did the band spend on getting the right tones and sounds before actually entering the studio?
I'd like to say a lot, but I think they took a few days to get the tones down. But everything's a lot easier now with the Kemper amps and having good amps and an assortment of amps. And we were pushing air too and trying to do as much analog as possible. But things are a lot easier now than in the 80s. I mean, to me, it seems like gravy.
Awesome. Well, lyrically, songs like No More Room in Hell and Shadowcult are kind of an open book, but some of the other titles are more vague. Can you let us know some of the more specific topics and subjects associated with some of the songs?
A lot of it's like technology as the new Lucifer, or where people are talking about, the mark of the beast and, the one world order and the global economy and things that we're starting to see happen today. And I mean, I'm not like trying to go hardcore serious, like a political, agenda or anything like that. But originally what I thought of is, it was silly because I was trying to think of a concept for the album. And of course I always use the Revelations, into the world, end of days, Armageddon type passages from the Bible, or the last book of the Bible. But at the same time, I was watching some silly, it's like a sitcom detective show called Lucifer. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, yes. I've never seen it.
And I was thinking, like, man, this shit would have never flown back in the 80s. And kind of waxing philosophical off that and saying, like, because nowadays if you talk about Jesus or Muhammad or Moses or whatever, people look at you like you're a fucking freak, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you like throw up the horns and say Hail Satan, everybody's like, yeah, what's up? So like it's become almost like reversed as it was back when Satan was actually scary. And so what would happen if like it just kept going this way and there was no God anymore? God just ceased to exist. There was only Satan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course I'm going to turn that into like a demonic fuck fest of whatever, and kind of spinning off there and thinking about like if Satan was real, how would that kind of like show itself on the earth, right?
Right.
And thinking about like the technology is the new Lucifer, where instead of a microchip in your left hand or wrist, you have a cell phone. Everybody's got one, which kind of directs you. I don't actually have a cell phone, but whenever I thumb through like one of my guys, like my friends but with somebody's cell phone, I'll look through it and I'll notice that the days of point and counterpoint are gone. It's all steering and direction and opinion to get you to a certain conclusion. Like you have to be Democrat or Republican. And if you're a Republican, you think this way. If you're a Democrat, you think that way. And they're, instead of point and counterpoint, they have us and them. Because I'm really, really kind of an observer. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than everybody else, because I think we all have been led to this conclusion.
Well, I was hanging out with the Death Angel guys actually on Sunday. They came through on some dates, and we were talking about the premiere of the Murder in the Front Row movie. Now, you're prominently featured in the Murder in the Front Row book, obviously, but I'd like to hear your opinion on where Possessed actually fit into that scene, or maybe didn't quite fit in.
Well, I mean, we were always kind of like a square peg in a round hole. It was a thrash world. We were playing death metal. Yet, I think because we were younger, and Gary Holt, loved Possessed, and the Metallica guys loved Possessed, that we were almost like they kind of took us under their wing, We're definitely a different brand of music. And I think that, you're right. We kind of didn't fit in, but yet we did. I mean, Death Angel was always opening for us. They're always playing with us, and we definitely loved those guys back in the day. So I guess we fit in. I mean, we were there every weekend. We were just as much a part of the scene as anybody else. We always have been kind of on the fringes, Do
you care as much about being heralded as the guy or band that invented death metal more than the fact that you're about to release your first album in 33 years?
Well, I care about them both. Of course, it's something I did. And I don't like people going out and saying that they did something I did. And I'm not saying, I did everything. I'm just saying I was the first, And anything else is a lie. Of being, playing as an artist is to create. And because it was, literally robbed from me at such an early age, and it took me so long to come back from that, this album means a lot. So I mean, it's been, decades in the making, and the things that I had to overcome to get here are mountainous, They both mean, equally as much to me. But, of course, as an artist, I'm going to keep creating and making music until, I'm dead. So that's just how I'm wired. I don't work well in life without being in a band and making music. So.
I understand. Revelations of Oblivion out now, just released. So, Jeff Becerra, thank you so much once again for taking the time. It was an honor to speak with you, and I just appreciate all the information about Possessed and the new record, and we certainly look forward to seeing you support the new record live on stage. Can you give us any inclination about any tours, possibly, or live appearances?
Yeah. We got a tour coming up in June. We're going to Europe. And, we're going to play with some bands like Kiss and Leonard Skinner.
The festival circuit, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. That's going to be fun. And also a lot of club, one-on-one Possessed shows throughout Europe. And then in September, it looks like there's a huge possibility of touring the U.S., but that's still very much up in the air at this point.
Well, we can enjoy the new record until we see you live. So thanks again, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Juice, for Nuclear Blast for having me.
Show me the sign. Let's suffer. Set us free. You shall follow me once again. Which you have not from regions where I reign. You fools and priests. I spit upon your fire.
The band is just as important today as it was 30 years ago, and honestly, they're more recognized and more hailed more than they've ever been. That's brand new Possessed, Shadowcult, the Revelations of Oblivion album, out now on Nuclear Blast, of course. Thanks again to Jeff Becerra for joining us. It was truly an honor to speak to the guy, and it's cool that he really dug my name, Drucifer. Whatever, right? We've still got another interview to go on this edition of the Nuclear Podblast. Jonathan from Graveyard will join us. Well, actually, he won't join us. I caught up with him while Graveyard were on tour with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats recently. So check that out coming up. We'll hear something from the latest Peace album from Graveyard as well. Some July releases to look forward to. North Tail and the Welcome to Paradise release. July 19 is The Great War from Sabaton. I know you're excited for that. And Human Target from Thy Art is Murder is coming out July 26th. Another big release for Nuclear Blast here in North America. Our first of two classic Blast cuts is coming up soon, going back to 2005. Think Godfathers of Doom. But first, when you think of countries from around the world with really strong metal scenes, Israel doesn't immediately pop into mind. However, the band Walkways from Tel Aviv certainly sound like an international metal act and not something subpar or not worthy of attention. Nuclear Blast has signed the band and are now releasing their second album, Bleed Out, Heal Out, June 21st. Influenced by the likes of Soilwork and Avenged Sevenfold, Walkways have supported Avenged and In Flames previously in Europe and look to spread their name and music further throughout the globe. Now here's the title track, Bleed Out, Heal Out, brand new music from Israel's Walkways, here on the Nuclear Pod Blast.
You let it all go. Restless, chasing, angry, hungry. Fuck this, dirty, anxious, worried, eating and pissing, screaming, try talking, whispering till shouting, up climbing, keep running, keep trying, buying, jumping, pushing, fading, walking, stumbling, crawling, falling, trying, buying, jumping, pushing, fading, walking, stumbling, crawling, falling. For what? Bleed out and heal out somehow with you. Throw away those broken past days, future worries. Bleed out, heal out and let go. Throw away those broken past days, future worries. Bleed out, heal out and let go. You let it all go. Showers the scorch, showers the long, hours the cold, showers the gulp of shit I had the fit right down my throat, still every quote I wrote in practice by rotating me to float out on you throughout the years. Wrote in practice by rotating me to float out on you throughout the years. Still need to bleed out and heal out somehow with you. Throw
This is the Nuclear Podblast.
from the self-titled Candlemass album, released by Nuclear Blast in 2005. That's 7 Silver Keys here on the Nuclear Podblast. Now that, of course, was a reunion album of sorts, with Messiah returning on lead vocals, but that only lasted a couple of years, and the band toured in support of the album, and Messiah took off for a second time eventually. Candlemass continued on for 3 albums with ex-Solitude Eternist vocalist Robert Lowe, all good records, and then an EP in 2016 with Mats Leven on vocals. But in February of this year, the band released The Door to Doom, a new album with original vocalist Johan Langvist from the band's 1986 debut Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. Graveyard were over touring the States recently and finally had a chance to play their material from the Peace album to North American fans. That run with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats was awesome. Sold out in most of the cities that the tour came through in North America. So again, a great package and great turnouts in all cities. And before that Denver show, I got a chance to speak with guitarist Jonathan Rahm about what's going on with Graveyard.
Hey, it's Drucifer here with the Nuclear Podblast. We're outside the Ogden Theater in Denver, Colorado for the Peace Across the Wasteland tour with Graveyard and Uncle Acid. And we've got Jonathan Rahm from Graveyard with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. First, it's been almost a year since the release of the Peace album. What new territories did the songs on that album allow the band to explore musically?
Yeah.
Tough question to start out.
Yeah, that's a hard one. But you know, we did it like we usually do it. You know, we just write songs individually and together, and there's a lot of improvising at the recordings as well. We don't have a plan, you know, for how it should sound or what to become, but it's really just for us. It's just making as good songs as we can and explore, you know, what would fit into them, or you know what would make them a little better instead of just adding a ton of shit to them. You know.
So you never have a preconceived notion of how that record's going to take shape before you start it.
Never. No. It's it's all by feel, I think.
On the new album, songs like The Fox and Bird of Paradise have a sense of melody that, to me, might be exclusive to the Peace album, at least to what I'm hearing. So do those tracks stand out to you in any way on the album?
Yeah, as you say, they're more melodic, kind of.
Sure.
And especially The Fox has this guitar melody. Joachim wrote it. It's all over the, you know, throughout the song, that melody goes around. So, yeah, we just, it's... as you say, they're a little different, but they add that kind of mid-tempos, you know. It's a nice
Little change up.
Yeah, change up. Yeah.
Well, since the last time that you guys toured the States and North America, have you seen a big difference in the number of fans that are reacting to your songs and music?
Yeah, I think every time we go here, it's better for us. You know, it's this tour has been very good, and you know, last time, like, it seems like we find a nice spot every time we go here. It's a little better kind of for us, so it's very good to be back, and it seems like there's a genuine interest in you know, rock music over here, and it feels good. You notice it by talking to people, and, you know, and you got all these radio stations that we don't have back in Sweden.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's kind of, you can notice that it's you know, it's not forgotten.
Well, we mentioned before we started the interview that it's been since 2015 since you've been here, since the Innocence and Decadence tour. I remember when Graveyard's debut album came out here in the States on TP Records, and lots of people took notice immediately because of the band's great sound, but also your unique approach to blending some different styles from different musical eras. Did you feel that you were doing something unique around the time of the debut?
It actually felt like we were in between the shares somehow. You know, we didn't know where we were at home really. You know, but we had some metalheads and some, you know, pop people and, you know, rock and roll. We were never sure of what we were doing or where we would end up, kind of. But you know, as you say, we mix a lot of music together, and that's the way. I think that's the way we like to do it. You know, we like to have the dynamics, even if it's live, and it's nice to not be full on the whole time and just take it down a notch sometimes. And I think it's a big part of Graveyard that we're not full on, we're just dynamic somehow.
Creatively, it's a tough spot to be in because you like to have many influential styles or many different kinds of influences, but at the same time, you want to give your fans a focus at least, and not give them a reason to keep coming back. If every album is completely different, or if every song is completely different, it's hard for somebody to grasp onto something.
Yeah, it is. But we think sometimes when you make a song and it feels like, fuck, this is strange, or this is really far from what we usually do, but still it sounds like Graveyard somehow. It's just I think we think that it's a bigger difference than it is, really,
Well, with such a warm but full studio sound that you deliver on, especially on the last few records, as we've said, they've just been better production-wise. I'm curious to hear the difference in the gear that you use on tour versus what you're used to in the recording studio.
All right, yeah. It's from this last recording. It's kind of a big difference, like using different amps, and it was actually a really good recording session. We had a good good vibe throughout the recording, and we were in the studio, and this guy that was he had something to do with a partnership, and he was just sending old amps, mint condition, cool, from 55 to 65. So I think we used like 20 amps on that recording, because really? Everybody sounded so good. It was amazing. Yeah, it was really good. But so it's going to be a little different, but at the same time we try to keep it within reasonable sound differences. So
can't be a major difference, from on stage.
Yeah. But it's I guess it's a little maybe it's a less distorted live show than record. I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. I've never seen us. So.
I haven't either, so I'm looking forward to it, man. I've been a fan of every record, so I can't wait to see the show finally tonight. Well, Jonathan from Graveyard, thanks so much. I appreciate you taking the time. We look forward to the tour tonight and finally getting to play the newer material from the Peace record in front of North American fans. So the best of luck for the rest of the tour as well as the next upcoming record.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
I got me some wheels and a grip I
my favorite track from the Peace album, Graveyard, with Please Don't, on the Nuclear Podblast. It was great catching up with Jonathan and the band in Denver when they were on tour with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. Let's hope for a new Graveyard record in 2020. As usual, head over to nuclearblastusa.com. Pre-orders for all of the upcoming releases. Some great vinyl releases coming up as well, so give it a look when you can. However, right here, Majestica, featuring Sabaton guitarist Tommy Johansson, have a brand new record out. He performs lead vocals and keyboards as well in Majestica. Now, originally named Rain Zed, the band that preceded Johansson's time in Sabaton, the band Majestica deliver a 10-song power metal power keg known as Twilight Force, and it comes out on June 7th. This track here is Rising Tide, and my name is Drucifer, and thank you so much for joining the Nuclear Podblast once again. Big thanks to my local friend Bill Douglas, who helps me out on the technical side every once in a while. And once again, a big thanks to the Nuclear Blast North American office for letting me yell at you about heavy metal. See you next time.
This is the Nuclear Podblast. Get more info at nuclearblast.com.